Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaved Bhaktivedanta ki jai. So today there is a wedding function that's happening. There's a holy, so we'll finish on time, before time, so that the other activities of the temple are not impeded in any manner. So for the next few minutes, we'll be discussing from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So the discussion today will be from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29 of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And we'll focus specifically on text number 39. Chapter 29 of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is entitled as Explanation of Devotional Service. Explanation of Devotional Service. And today's verse, 39th verse, is as follows. Nachasya kaschid daito nadveshyo nacha bandhavah avisatya pramattosav pramattam janam antakrit nachasya kaschid daito nadveshyo nacha bandhavah avishyatya pramattosav pramattam janam antakrit nachasya kaschid daito nadveshyo nacha bandhavah avishyatya pramattosav pramattam janam antakrit nachasya kaschid daito nadveshyo nacha bandhavah avishyatya pramattosav pramattam janam antakrit nachasya kaschid daito nadveshyo nacha bandhavah avishyatya pramattosav pramattam janam antakrit nachasya kaschid daito nadveshyo nacha bandhavah avishyatya pramattosav pramattam janam antakrit. Mataji. Nachasya kaschid daito nadveshyo nacha bandhavah avishyatya pramattosav pramattam janam antakrit. Na, not, cha, and asya of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kaschit, anyone. Daita, dear. Na, not. Dveshya, enemy. Na, not. Cha, and. Bandhavah, friend. Avisati, approaches. Apramattah, attentive. Asau, he. Pramattam, inattentive. Janam, persons. Antakrit, the destroyer. Translation. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have forgotten him. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. Purport. Forgetfulness of one's relationship with Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of one's resistance. He is put into this material nature and transmigrates from one body to the other. And when the body is destroyed, he thinks that he is also destroyed. Actually, this forgetfulness of his relationship with Lord Vishnu is the cause of his destruction. Anyone who receives his consciousness of the original relationship receives inspiration from the Lord. Anyone who revives his consciousness of the original relationship receives inspiration from the Lord. This does not mean that the Lord is someone's enemy and someone else's friend. He helps everyone. One who is not bewildered by the influence of the material energy is saved, and one who is bewildered is destroyed. It is said, therefore, Harim vina na sritim taranti. No one can be saved from the repetition of birth and death without the help of the Supreme Lord. It is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu and thus save themselves from the cycle of birth and death. It is therefore, it's a concluding line of Srila. Usually the concluding lines are the most important. That's the central point. It is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu and thus save themselves from the cycle of birth and death. Save themselves is a very important two words here. So the ownership is not on the Lord. We have to save ourselves. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatho Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. न चास्य कश्चित् दयितो न द्वेष्यो न च बान्धवः आविशति अप्रमत्तो असौ pramattam janam antakrit. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. So we are in third canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, titled as Explanation of Devotion, chapter 29, titled as Explanation of Devotional Service. So very quickly, let's see what is the context that's going on, which is leading up to today's verse. A conversation is happening between Devahuti and her son, Lord Kapila Deva, who is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devahuti is asking her son to explain to her the path of bhakti, the path of devotional service. In response to the request from his mother, Devahuti, Lord Kapil Dev is explaining the various facets of bhakti in various stages, the various facets in a very systematic manner. He starts by explaining how should be the mood when one is doing bhakti. In that context, he talks about Mishri Bhakti as well as pure Bhakti. Mishri Bhakti is Bhakti which is alloyed and which is colored, contaminated. Not in one sense, Bhakti cannot be contaminated, but it is mixed with the three modes of material nature. So as part of that, Lord Kapil Dev is explaining to Devahuti that even within devotional service, one can do devotional service in the mode of ignorance, devotional service in the mode of passion, and devotional service in the mode of goodness. So this is the Mishri Bhakti part. And he says that any of these modes, if our Bhakti is colored by any of these three modes of material nature, then our Bhakti in that sense is a separatist mentality. It is not unified with the Lord's desire. And when our desire is not unified with the Lord's desire, at that time, by the cosmic order, we come under the subjugation of the three modes of material nature, even if we are under the process of Bhakti. So he talks about this Mishri Bhakti. Then he moves on to talk about pure Bhakti, which is unalloyed Bhakti. One aspect of unalloyed Bhakti, in fact, the very definition of unalloyed Bhakti given by Rupa Goswami, which also Kapil Dev mentions here, is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. There is no other desire in Bhakti except the pleasure or service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he explains Mishri Bhakti and pure Bhakti. In that context, he gives an example that pure devotees don't even desire liberation. They don't desire Salokya, they don't desire Samipya, they don't desire Sarupya, they don't desire Ekatvam. Diya manam na grinanti vinamat sevanam janara. The only thing that they desire is the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So after contrasting Mishri Bhakti and pure Bhakti, Lord Kapil Dev starts talking about the process of Bhakti. So he covers some of the aspects of the Navavidha Bhakti. So he underscores the importance of coming to the temple, taking darshan of the deities, praying to the deities, putting forth our desires to the deities, glorifying the deities, and so on and so forth. So various aspects of Navavidha Bhakti. And then he talks about etiquettes and dealings in Bhakti. So Lord Kapil Dev explains that one has to be very careful in dealing with devotees. And he talks about various levels of devotees, Uttamadhikaris, Madhyamadhikaris, Kanishtadhikaris, how to deal. So he talks about that. And then he mentions that if one is very careful in dealing with devotees, then one develops attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the better we deal with devotees, the more the Lord awards us with His love, which is what we are all seeking at the end of the day. If we simply go about doing our bhakti without regard for etiquettes or how we talk to devotees, how we, sometimes we unleash our moods on devotees. All the time we keep doing that. We get into a habit of that. We don't even realize it. It may be that people considering us as senior may pardon us, but the Lord doesn't pardon that. We get into this habit of constantly talking to devotees and unleashing our moods. If our mood is not good in the morning, then we unleash it on devotees. Because if we unleash it on the outside world, they'll give it back to us. But devotees are very patient. Therefore, we get into this habit of getting used to doing whatever we want to say, talking whichever we want, just because devotees are patient and they'll be silent. But in the long term, that is detrimental to our own progress, which we don't realize many times. So, very clearly, Lord Kapil Dev is saying that we have to develop this, we have to be very cautious in this manner. Then he talks about the importance of Paramatma, and he talks about the omnipresence of the Lord. He moves on to discuss the gradation of various living entities, and in that he talks about living entities right from the tree species to the lower species of life, and then comes to the point where he says the highest is human beings, and even that there is gradation. He says right from the human beings where there are cannibals to the point where there are Brahmanas who have studied the Vedas. But he also says that better than the Brahmanas who have studied the Vedas are those who have understood the meaning of the Vedas or understood the import of the Vedas, at the conclusion of the Vedas. And better than those people are those people who act on this conclusion and perform devotional service and surrender to the Lord. So he is explaining all this to his mother as part of explanation of devotional service, which is the chapter. And he says that acting under the jurisdiction or under the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Supreme Purusha, such persons perform bhakti and therefore attain Supreme Personality of Godhead. So essentially it's almost like a yoga ladder he's talking about. Such a devotee, he says, who has surrendered to the Lord, neither fears nor laments about time or the impact that time has in this material world or in our own lives. They do not lament. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kamshati. So devotee automatically is in the Brahma Bhuta platform. So does not lament about the ill effects of time. Now, having discovered, at the same time, he causes every living being to be annihilated by another living being or another living entity or by Prakriti, by the laws of nature. And in today's verse, after talking about all that, as if someone may think that why is Lord so cruel, he says that Lord is neither anyone's enemy nor is he anyone's friend. So he's bringing that mood. He talks about God as an impartial personality. Yet a personality who is not devoid of emotion. Sometimes in our impartialness, we can also become very stoic or impersonal. So he's very clearly saying that God is impartial, yet the mood is that he is full of emotions. Lord is not devoid of emotions. Rather, he is the source of all emotion. So today we'll invest some time in understanding this impartial or fair aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, why is the Lord misunderstood as being unfair or partial? Why do we go through that misunderstanding? So it is explained by studying, various shastras. Then we will understand, or going through our own experience with in our life as well as in our journey of preaching. We understand that primarily we do not understand the impartial feature of the Lord, and we conclude that he is partial because we do not understand his scientific cosmic design. We don't understand how the world operates because we have never studied the scriptures. So we don't understand this cosmic design on one end, nor do we understand his personal nature and his personal dealings with each one of us. We don't understand his personal plan or interference in our lives. We don't understand this. Therefore, we conclude that he is unfair or he is partial. Why do we conclude again? In our ignorance of understanding this cosmic design and his personal nature, we expect that we should not have any problems in our life. So, no problems in our life. Or sometimes even if there are no problems in our life, we still conclude that he is unfair because others do not have problems in their lives. So it's not only about us. Because of our envy, we conclude that he is unfair. For example, let's say if I can't afford a house, okay, and someone else can afford something, then we say that, oh Lord, you are unfair. You put me in a position that I can't afford that house, but someone else can afford that house. I can afford only one property where someone can afford 5 properties. So immediately the mind comes saying that you are unfair. Especially when you start going to these auctions, then you feel very unfair. When someone gets the house and then you don't get the house, you say that I am a devotee, but this fellow is meat eater, but still he got the auction. Lord, you are unfair to your devotees because I also wanted that house. So sometimes even as devotees, we kind of have this, impose our, because we are Mishri Bhaktas, we are half devotees and half practicing devotees. So we are half here and half there. Or we want unbridled freedom to act without any personal responsibility or accountability. I want to do as my mind desires, and I am not accountable for this. And if I get a reaction, then you are unfair to me. And if someone else also does whatever I do and he doesn't get a reaction, you are even more unfair. Because why you gave reaction only to me? So like that. So that's another way we impose our mood. Further, we think that he is unfair when he fails to solve our problems the way we want our problems to be solved. Okay. So we want him to solve our problems based on our intelligence. So it is our intelligence. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was once mentioning, in Mary K. Hall, that we want him to act based on our intelligence or based on the laws of our own mind, because our own mind makes laws for us as to what is unfair, what is fair for us. So we want him to act based on the dictats of our mind and the direction of our mind, or based on some mundane morality which we may have learned somewhere in our life. So it is our intelligence, our mind, and we want him to use his potency with our intelligence. So I am the desirer, you are the doer, an executor. Because you have the potencies, I have the desire. Let's make the best of both. Like that. And we not only want him to go as per our mind, we also want him to solve our problems based on our timelines and project plan. And if that does not happen, we call him as unfair. So, what does this kind of a mentality show us about our own selves? It shows that we have half trust in him. We don't trust him actually fully. Little bit we trust him. Whenever we want, we trust him. It is very circumstantial that we trust him. Based on our own moods, we trust him or don't trust him. And even if we trust that he is omnipotent, we may trust, okay Lord, I accepted that, you are the one who decides everything and you are powerful, okay, accepted all that. We accept his omnipotence, but we do not accept his or trust his omniscience. Which means I trust his power, but I don't trust his intelligence that he will be able to solve my problems better than what I can think I can solve. So only his power we trust, not his intelligence. So these are various reasons why we brand him as unfair or partial. Now how do we overcome this problem? The only way of overcoming this problem is we need Vedic knowledge. There is no other way. We need scriptural knowledge. Because only through scriptural knowledge will we understand the cosmic design which we talked about earlier. There is a logic, there is a very good algorithm which operates, which he has put. And he has put that in autopilot. Right? It operates perfectly under his jurisdiction. Maya dhyakshena prakrite suyate sacharacharam. We don't understand that. And that is why we are miserable. So we don't understand his cosmic design. And we don't have transcendental knowledge. So by understanding Vedic knowledge, we will understand the cosmic designs. And by transcendental knowledge, we will understand his nature and his dealings with us. Even we will understand why is he doing something in our life the way he is doing. That is the aspect of transcendental knowledge. That may not necessarily come with Vedic knowledge. It has to come through transcendental knowledge. Because only through transcendental knowledge we will understand the nature of God. How God thinks. We will not understand it otherwise. And how he acts in different situations. For different devotees. With different purposes. So, both Vedic knowledge as well as transcendental knowledge thereof, which is Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, etc., requires scriptural reading and hearing. Not only scriptural reading and hearing, followed by a devotional regimen, a devotional diet, a devotional routine that makes us receptive and makes us more intelligent to absorb what we are hearing and actually such that it starts running in our bloodstream after that. So without that, we will always remain in a state where we will brand him as unfair or partial. So speaking of hearing and reading, one of the foremost verses that talk about the Lord's neutrality is Bhagavad Gita 4.11, which says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamyaham. So, this is a very beautiful verse to understand the impartial nature of the Lord. Through this verse, we will understand the key point that the Lord is not partial, whereas the Lord is reciprocal in his nature. So when we replace the word with partial, we replace the word partial with reciprocal, then everything will fall in place. What do you mean by reciprocal? Reciprocal means that the Lord responds to every single desire of every living entity. Whether that desire has been explicitly articulated to him or whether the desire is latent in somebody's heart. The Lord understands that. So he responds to every single desire, explicit, implicit, latent, and he responds to every single prayer of every single living entity. How does he do so? That's the second part. He does so by playing dual roles. He has many roles, of course. Bhagavan himself means cause of all causes, supreme proprietor, supreme controller, and supreme enjoyer. That is what is called as Bhagavan. But specifically two aspects of his are important to understand his impartiality. Two roles. We will come to what are those two roles very soon. There is one famous Hindi song which says, दुनिया बनाने वाले क्या तेरे मन में समाई, काहे को दुनिया बनाई. Which means, in Hindi, the translation in English is, दुनिया बनाने वाले means, hey, one who made, one who has created this whole creation, you creator, क्या तेरे दिल में समाई? What was in your heart that you created this material world? काहे को दुनिया बनाई? Why did you create this material world? Thinking what did you create this whole thing? And then the rules and regulations and what not. So obviously this is a famous old Bollywood song, but obviously there was no answer to that. The answer is only in the scriptures. So if you only see that movie and come out, you will not understand. It's only in the scriptures. Nor will we understand why there is misery in the material world through sources outside like Bollywood. Nor will we understand how to get out of the cycle of birth, disease, old age and death. And whether such an abode even lies or not lies somewhere. So people don't know these answers because nobody is reading, nobody is hearing. Everyone is simply enjoying this material world. So we will not understand this unless we understand two roles that the Lord plays. Of course, by studying the scriptures, all of us by now have come to this basic understanding, thanks to Srila Prabhupada's books, that we are Tathastha Shakti. We are marginal potency of the Lord, which means we always have a choice whether to surrender or not to surrender. We always have a choice whether to enjoy with the Lord or whether to enjoy like the Lord. Okay. So the people who choose to enjoy with the Lord, along with the Lord, and whose enjoyment is along with the Lord's enjoyment, whose enjoyment is aligned with the Lord's enjoyment, whose enjoyment is the Lord's enjoyment, those people stay on the other side, which is the spiritual world. And those people who want to also enjoy, like the Lord, you are also enjoying. Can I also not? Like you? So there is this material world which is created. That answers that question. Kahe ko duniya banai? Why did you create this material world? Because we want to enjoy like Him. And sometimes separately from Him also. So now, because this is the desire of living entities, then the Lord now has dual roles, two roles He takes. Let's talk about the first role. The first role of the Lord is that He is the Supreme Father. Okay, He is the Supreme Parent. Not only is the Supreme Father, but He is also Achyuta, infallible. He is perfect Supreme Father. One can be the Supreme, one can be the head of some country, the Supremo, but he need not be perfect. For example, I was watching a video yesterday of the Syrian situation. I was hearing to President Bashar's interview with an Australian news person, and they were dissecting the whole Syrian situation, and they were asking very pointed questions on why Syria is going the way it's going, and he was also giving very systematic responses. But when I saw the whole situation, it was very clear that everyone has a different interest in that situation. Yemen has one interest, Saudi Arabia has an interest, America has its own interest, Russia has its own interest, Syria has its own interest. Even within Syria, the president has one interest, somebody else, some other faction has some other interest. There is no unified interest. Everyone has his own desires and everyone wants a different outcome. So, in Sammam Bonam, they both conclude that it's a very complex situation, it cannot be solved. So, and this is the head of the country. He can't solve the situation. Whether his intentions are genuine or not intention, we don't know. Okay? But even if his intentions are genuine, he is not the supreme controller anyway. There are other agencies which are operating. And if the intentions are not genuine, then God forbid after that, right? Whereas the Lord is not like that. He is the perfect Supreme Father. And he is also incidentally the controller. So everything is with him. No worries. One source. So as a perfect Supreme Father, he loves his children. And he knows what is perfect for each child of his. So he is in love with his children, whether they are pure devotees, whether they are practicing devotees, whether they are half devotees, whether they are non-devotees, or whether they think that they are God and they want to replace him. So he is still the perfect Supreme Father. He wants to sanction all their desires. So he facilitates. He is the supreme facilitator, very neutral, impartial facilitator. How does he do it? Some examples. For example, for the non-devotees. Now, what do the non-devotees want? Non-devotees means people who don't have anything to do with the constitution of law, nothing. They want easy, quick, short-term enjoyment. And their thinking is, life is short. Who has seen God or not? Enjoy. Whatever will come, anyway will come. Everyone is miserable anyway. So let me enjoy and be miserable, rather than not enjoy and anyway be miserable. So for these non-devotees, he creates the illusory energy to think that they are having their own Rasa Leela in this material world. And in that context, what is the highest attraction in this material world? Srila Prabhupada says, Pumsa Sriya Maithuni Bhava Metam Taror Mitho Hridaya Granthi Mahu Ato Sutapta Vitayar Aho Grihar Kshetra Sutapta Vitayar Janasya Moho Aham Mam Eti. So this is the Rishabhadev section which we will find in the 5th canto. So what does it mean? The highest attraction that the Lord provides for enjoyment here is the attraction between man and woman. And the whole world, the whole economy runs around that. Everything runs around that one central point, attraction between man and woman. Any industry runs around that. So, everyone wants to think of themselves as little gods. Aham mameti. This world, I am God, and everything is meant for my enjoyment, everything is owned by me. So this is the illusion. So Lord gives this kind of an illusion in this material world. So people who want, you can get that illusion, no problem. And this facility is made available to everyone. There is no partiality. Crown Casino is available for everyone. Right? Liquor is available for everyone. Everything is provided for enjoyment. Women are available. Men are available. Also, Lord provides both the spectrums, right from clean food and vegetables to that ecstasy drug. Everything is provided by the Lord. Because ecstasy drug is also made of Brahman only at the end of the day. Right? Everything, nothing is outside his creation. So he gives a wide variety of choice. Everything is provided to everyone. It's up to you what you want to choose. So that is for the non-devotees. Then for the mixed devotees, the Mishri Bhaktas, which is, for example, who want higher enjoyment, as well as some piety is there. For these kind of people who want higher enjoyment as well as piety, then he organizes for what is called as the heavenly planets. There are two types of heavenly planets. One heavenly planets which are above the earthly planets, and the other heavenly planets are below the earthly planets. So for these people who are Mishri Bhaktas, who have piety as well as want to enjoy higher material enjoyment, not lower material enjoyment, what we have in this material world, little bit higher quality, and for more time they want to enjoy. For such people, he creates what is called as a Divya Swarga, which is the planets above the material world, Bhuvas, and so on and so forth, Maharloka, Tapaloka, and so on and so forth. So there it is mentioned, in those heavenly planets, the Apsaras are much more beautiful than the women of this material world. The Gandharvas can sing much better than the topmost singer in this material world. I was mentioning in one program on Friday that if an earthly being even sees an Apsara, we can't even see those beauty with our eyes and we'll collapse. Or if an earthly being even hears the song of a Gandharva, we cannot hear, we'll faint. It's beyond our range, even of enjoyment. It's like that. But for people who genuinely want to attain that level of enjoyment, then there is a facility he gives in the higher planetary systems, where there is opulence and piety. So there is opulence there, so much opulence, but there is still some piety, so that the forgetfulness quotient is not completely zero. Right? There is remembrance of the Lord. These are the planets of Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and so on and so forth. The Devi Devatas, Mishri Bhaktas. Then there are other people who are moralistic but not pious. They are good people, but they have nothing to do with God. What of them? For them also he provides. They say, I don't believe in God and all, but I believe in being a good human being. I'll do nice activities. I'll help the poor man. I'll help the physically challenged person cross the road. I'll open some free food for the poor people, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of people like that who are very moral and who are very conscientious, but who are not pious, who don't have anything to do with God. For them also he creates a heavenly planet, which is called as the Bila Swarga, which is below the earthly planetary systems, where there is lot of opulence, but there is no piety. So he allows them to enjoy, but because there is only opulence and no piety, the forgetfulness quotient is at its peak there. There is no remembrance of the Lord. There is only enjoyment. So he facilitates their desires also. Right? And these are the planets which are Atala, Sutala, Vitala, leading on to the lower planetary systems. So these are about moral atheists, no piety. And for devotees, practicing devotees, like all of us, he facilitates. How does he facilitate? Again, he is giving the same material enjoyment which is giving to the other people. But because we want to go back to Godhead, yes, practicing devotees and non-devotees, there is one difference. Both have material desire, but both don't have the same goal. As practicing devotees, yes, we do like sense gratification, no doubt about that. Right? Occasionally we may get into a cinema theatre, or we may watch that cricket match in the Melbourne cricket ground. Occasionally we may eat something which is not prasadam, right? We may do so many things, right? But deep inside we know that's not our goal. It's our weakness, but not our goal. So that is the difference between non-devotees and practicing devotees. Whereas non-devotees, their goal itself is sense gratification, whereas not ours. So for people like us who are practicing devotees, he allows us to some level of sense gratification, but at the same time he sends his prophets and intimate servants from the spiritual world who inspire us to get detached from that sense gratification, who inspire us to practice sense gratification under certain rules and regulations, eventually leading to the detachment. And if still we don't listen, then the Lord gives personal slaps to all of us. Right? And that way, he interferes in our life. Which a seriously practicing devotee understands those personal slaps and welcomes those personal slaps also. So he is not stoic, or he is not neutral, non-interfering. He interferes in the life of his personal devotee. Why? Because the personal devotee's goal is to attain him. So again, he is not taking the free will away from the practicing devotee. He just sees that goal and says, okay, because you have this goal, I am interfering now. Otherwise, I wouldn't interfere in your life. Okay? So those slaps. And as practicing devotees, we have so many desires. We have gross desires, we have subtle desires. Initially, our desire is only prasadam when we start. And after that, then if you ask someone, why do you come to the temple? Prasadam is wonderful and Kirtan is excellent. So we come for prasadam and Kirtan. So our desires now, prasadam plus Kirtan. Then after some time, we don't only want to hear Kirtan, we want to sing Kirtan also. I like hearing and I also like singing. Then after some time, our desires say that, why cannot I lead the Kirtan today? So we want to be the lead singer in the Kirtan. So we are looking, I remember in my early days, I used to wait and sit when I can grab that mic. That mic is free, immediately I'll go and stand there. Like that. And I'll not look at anyone because maybe someone else is also waiting for that. So we want to be the lead singers after that, so that everyone hears our voice. So yes, bhakti is there, but so many subtle desires, unfulfilled desires of somewhere coming forth like that. And then after that, not only is it enough to lead the Kirtan, we want to be known as one of the best singers in the temple. And then we want to be known as the best singer in the temple. Right? So many desires, and Krishna is there with us. And herein is the beauty of Krishna. He comes and gives those slaps. Slowly he corrects us, and he starts detaching us from those things which seemingly look like bhakti, but actually are not bhakti. It doesn't mean we should not sing in the temple, but he may bring us to a point wherein simply hearing the holy name and meditating on him, regardless of who is singing, is enough. He may bring us to that point. Those are the slaps, and that's how he interferes. Because our goal, but he will do that if we go and pray to him that, Lord, look, I'm having these nasty desires which always kind of camouflage my real desire, but Lord, you do whatever you want now. Even if they surface, even if I come and ask you, I want to be the best singer in the temple, you don't even put me on the roster. Okay? Let me get detached to that point and you give me a taste for your holy name. It should not be about me. It is about my purification. It's about my relationship with you. And when we start praying like that, then he fulfills very nicely. Many desires like that. So there is a journey which the non-devotees goes, and the Lord with his personal reciprocation, he shows that look, I am neutral and I am neutrally interfering in your life based on your desires. I am not trying to control you. I am only reciprocating with whatever you are coming to me every time with prayers. Like that. Sometimes we may have a desire to be the most influential devotee in the temple. That also through various slaps he corrects. We may have a desire to be the most influential go-to person through who everyone should go to Guru Maharaj. Okay, no one can go access spiritual master without me. So first go through me. Which means all of you, you better respect me. Okay, even whatever way I am dealing with you, understand that I am the power center here. Okay, because if you don't do that, I'll say Guru Maharaj is busy or taking rest. And you can't get that appointment with him. It's me, go through me. I am the controller here. Okay. I will do whatever I do. I will deal with devotees whichever way I want to remain in power. So that I call the shots and no one else calls the shots. So that all devotees will only owe allegiance to me and I can be nicely situated, very happy. This desire, when we realize, we go to Krishna and say that look, all this is giving power and influence, but it is not giving happiness within the heart. Which is why I am practicing bhakti in the first place. I want to get out, my dear Lord, in this lifetime. How long can I hold on to these things and just allow these to dictate my behavior and dictate my actions and my thoughts and whatever I do? How long? So please, even if I have these kind of desires, you please keep slapping me all the time. Don't allow these desires to get fulfilled. You do whatever is best for me. If I have to become a hero one day, no problem. If you desire so. Next day, if I have to look like a turkey in the congregation, make me a turkey. No problem. But do whatever you want with me. But please, what is that famous for me? Because then I don't have any shelter, my dear Lord, after that. I have nowhere to go. If you throw me out, if the devotees throw me out, I have nowhere to go after that. So, when we keep these things in mind, then we find that, usually we will find that the Lord is then reciprocating. Of course, still our other mind is also strong. The other mind also will come and say, okay Lord, fine, I have told you all these prayers, but little bit slowly. That is also there. Not so much that I can take it. No? Don't make it turkey in one day. Gradually make me a turkey. Slowly roast me. Like that. So there are so many things that are going in our mind. Turbulent mind. Like that. But he is very patient with us. Very impartially, very neutrally, very affectionately. He deals and slowly he does that cutting. So much for dealing with non-devotees, Mishri Bhaktas, moral atheists, practicing devotees with material desires. And then finally, he creates the material world for pure devotees. You may wonder, what do pure devotees have to do with the material world? But what do Goshti Anandi devotees pray? What is the mood of a Goshti Anandi? Goshti Anandi devotees have only mission. They don't want to go back to Godhead. Goshti Anandi devotees want to work within this material world to unite the lost children with the Supreme Father. That is what is the mood of a Goshti Anandi saint. Otherwise, why did Prabhupada come into this material world? Prabhupada was not of this material world. He came only because he wanted to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati came for the same reason. So why do these people come to this material world? So the Lord also gives his intimate servants an opportunity, because their desire is to unite us with Krishna. So he creates a material world, and this is the opportunity for them to come into the jail and liberate all of us. And in doing so, that gives devotees of the stature of Srila Prabhupada their mission to serve Lord Krishna. So these are various reasons. Dunya banane wale kahe ko dunya banai? So many reasons. Whoever you created the world, why did you create it? These are various reasons. So the first role, this is what his role is as a supreme father, because he's a father to everyone. So he's fulfilling everyone's desires in different ways. Not only is a supreme father, the second role that he does is that he is a supreme controller. And again, here he is not only the perfect supreme controller, but he is the perfect compassionate supreme controller. He is perfect controller, but also compassionate. So as a perfect compassionate supreme controller, he ensures that he fulfills the desires of his children, but he has to be in control. Not without control. Not that he has left his control and everyone is doing anything that they want and there is anarchy everywhere. Obviously, then there is no control. Then he is not a supreme controller. So he fulfills the desire in deference to the guidelines laid by him. He says, yes, you can enjoy nicely, but you have to follow some rules. Because I am the controller, I am going to put some rules now. And that is not something, doesn't mean that he is not a parent. Even as a parent, we put rules on our children, don't we? If we tell, oh children, anything, father loves, mama loves, anything you do, nothing, no problem. Break the glass, jump on the sofa, behave whichever way you want with anyone. After all, your father loves you, mother loves you. Obviously, that's not even parenting, right? So sensible parenting means there is love and there is discipline also. There is chastisement, right? So like that, and he is the supreme, controller. So he brings in his control as a father and as a controller. So he gives facility to enjoy. Out of the 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, the position of Ishvara is anyway taken. There is no negotiation there. Jiva is also taken. There is no choice there. Karmana daiva netrena jantur deha upapatte. So no choice of where we are born. Prakriti, we can't do anything. We can't change the laws of nature. Kal, we cannot change time. We can only adjust our watches. Right? The only thing we can change is karma. But he has given us that facility. He gives us that part. He says that is your baby now. All others I have done. I have laid down the laws of karma. Now whether you get subjugated or not, you have a free will. What to do and what not to do. So what he has done is, he has given us this free will, but at the same time as a controller, he has given us a universal governance process. He has given us a constitution through the medium of the scriptures, clearly outlining what are the laws and what are the repercussions if we don't follow those laws. So he, in that sense, he has sent us law books, but not only has he sent law books, he sends teachers also. Like Srila Prabhupada, who taught us everything, right? Not only that, but if that is not enough, he sometimes comes himself also to teach personally, like Lord Kapila Dev is teaching to his mother, right? So much for, laws and teaching. And these scriptures are available to all, everyone. So there is nothing unfair or partial. Someone says, I don't know the laws of karma. I didn't know that if I eat meat, I'll have to suffer. You didn't know, but then you had an opportunity to know. I'm giving you this book. I don't have time to read this book. That is your choice now. So don't call the Lord as unfair or partial. He has given scriptures to everyone. Somebody else is paying $10. I'm giving you this book free now. In fact, I am being partial to you now by giving you free. But you don't want to read. You don't want to follow. So through his perfection, through being a perfect, compassionate, supreme controller, again he deals with different devotees in different ways. With the Vikarmis, people who don't have anything to do with the laws of nature or laws of God, he chastises them. He chastises their transgression of the laws of material nature. And he also provides a facility for them. It is called as Narakalok, which is even below the Bila Swarg. Below that is the Naraklok, the hellish planets, which is described in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and Garuda Purana. There is an opportunity there for them to get reformed, for them to get punished. So he chastises their transgression, but also gives them compassion after that. Once that punishment is over, still the desire is still there. Punishment for eating meat is already done. Punishment for your aggression is already given to you. But the desire to be aggressive and the desire to eat meat is still there. So what happens? Out of his compassion now, he gives them bodies of animals. Okay, so that you can eat without any karma, right? So there's a very beautiful plan. So based on the inclinations and desires of different people in the earthly planets, then there is a cosmic design which he arranges. That is why that verse, Karmana daiva netrena jantur deha upapatta. Triya pravishta udaram pumsareta kanashraya. So everything is operating based on one's karma, daiva netrena, under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of God and his various agents. Jantur deha upapattayate. Various people get their various bodies through what? Pumsareta kanashraya. Through the semen of the father, the soul, based on its desire, enters into the appropriate feminine body, be that of a human being or be that of an animal. So the vikarmis. Now the sukarmis, people who are doing good activities, who are good children, they want to obey and enjoy. So he rewards their adherence to the rules. He rewards them by giving them heavenly planets and also acknowledges their goals and desires. So he gives them enjoyment of the heavenly planets. And for these people who want to enjoy regulated sense enjoyment, the Lord also provides the facility of Varnashrama Dharma, wherein gradually he comes and himself teaches this Varnashrama Dharma, which is a platform based on which eventually one attains transcendental knowledge, leading to remembrance of the Lord. So he gives the duties of the 4 Varnas, 4 ashrams. He says, based on your inclination, you choose whatever you want to do. You want to be brahmachari, choose. Grihastha, choose. Vanaprastha, your choice. Sannyasi, your choice. Right? So he gives this choice. He does not force anyone to follow it. Even to Arjuna, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he says, I have told you whatever I want to tell. Now it's up to you. So that again shows his impartiality and fairness. Then to the pseudo-transcendentalists, the people who think that they are transcendent but they are not, for them also he provides, based on their desires. What is the desire of the pseudo-transcendentalist? To think that he or she is God. Right? So he facilitates for them also, for these atheists and Mayavadis. He enables forgetfulness of himself. And how does he enable? He himself sends various personalities to give them Asat Shastram. Mayavadam Asat Shastram. So Adi Shankara, he sent Lord Shiva as Adi Shankara to give Sharirika Bhashya, which is a deviation from the original Vedanta Sutra. The pristine original commentary of Vedanta Sutra is Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. But then he specifically sent Lord Shiva, who is his own Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, to come and give something exactly opposite. Yes, Sharirika Bhashya. Just to deliberately delude people and keep them very happy, thinking that, okay, I am the Lord. Then we have so many other personalities. We have Vopadev, we have the false Kapila who comes. He comes as the true Kapila as well as there is a false Kapila also who comes to spread all these things. So that these people who want to think they are God can live very content within themselves. The Lord is Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. If we study the cloud, what is the cause of the cloud? The sun is the cause of the cloud. But what does the cloud do? It tries to cover the sun itself after that. Right? So that is the mood of a Mayavadi. These people are all coming from Bhagavan, but their job is then to put him into obscurity. So, but then Lord facilitates their desires also. So how is he called as, he is definitely impartial. Very, very fair. You wanted it, I am giving you this. Then the Brahmavadis. The Brahmavadis are true transcendentalists in one sense. But the Brahmavadis' goal is not service to Bhagavan. The Brahmavadis are so frustrated with this material world, they want to enjoy the permanency aspect of Brahman, the Sat aspect of Brahman. So the Lord facilitates that also. Their goal is eternality. Their goal is peace and tranquility, not devotional service. So therefore the Lord facilitates that desire also. He is created. He himself is the Parabrahman. He is the foundation of Brahman. So he says, if you want just to merge into the divine Brahman, if tranquility is what you want, come, merge. Be there for as long as you want. And for you people also, I'll provide 2 options. If you get bored, I have anyway given you the material world. Go and enjoy there. But if you want to attain me, I can lift that veil of Brahman and reveal the source, which is my toenails. And you can come. So he gives that choice also to Brahmavadis. To the people who want darshan of the Lord, who are the Ashtanga yogis, again, Lord comes as Lord Kapila. Lord Kapila is talking so much of Ashtanga yoga in all these chapters. By following the process, one comes to see that personality who is the source of that Brahman. So to have darshan of the Lord like that. So there also he is very fair to those kind of people who desire only darshan of the Lord. And then finally to those people who are not satisfied with darshan of the Lord, but who want a relationship with the Lord facilitates. That is a Vaishnava Sampradaya, right? So he sends various Sampradayic Acharyas into this material world. He sends Adi Shankara. One may say, how come Adi Shankara? Is he not a Mayavadi? No. Prabhupada writes he is a covered personalist. Because towards the end of his lifetime, though Adi Shankara, towards the end of his Leelas, he talked about surrender to the personality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Lord Krishna. And he also said that though I have come to teach Jnana Yoga, samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukran karne. Which means all these rules of grammar, whatever Vedic studies that I have taught you, they are not going to save you from the cycle of birth, disease, old age and death. What will save you? Bhagavad Gita kinchita dita ganga jalalava kanika pita sakritapi yena murari samarcha hriday kriyate tasyamanena charcha. What will ultimately save you is transcendental knowledge coming through Bhagavad Gita, is the waters of the holy Ganges river and devotional life. If you do that, then sakritapi yena murari samarcha. You will have then darshan of Murari, the killer of the Mura demon, who is Krishna. Kriyate tasya manena charcha. You will have no conversation or meeting with Yamaraj. So this is none other than the coward Mayavadi or personalist, if you like. Adi Shankara himself told this. So he sends these people also, who preach Asat Shastram on one hand, but who also give Bhaja Govindam on the other hand. So he has given both. The Lord Shiva is Lord Shiva, he is a Vaishnava. How can he not give Vaishnava philosophy? Though Lord has instructed, he is still giving Vaishnava philosophy towards the end. And then, for those people who need more clarity, more focus, he sent Ramanujacharya, who gave Vishishta Advaitam. Then he gave Madhvacharya. However, Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya Sampradaya appeal to those kind of devotees who are purely in Dasya. Not devotees who want to enter the inner chambers of Bhagavan. Not those people who want to play with him. Not those people who want to chastise Bhagavan. Not those people who want to be his girlfriend or wife. Right? So, for those people also, there is a provision. So, he sent Vallabhacharya, who gave Pushti Marg, who came to give the mood of Lord as Laddu Gopal, where the devotee can be the parent of the Lord. So there also he fulfills those desires of the devotee. He fulfills the desires of devotees to be his friend. He fulfilled Arjuna's desire on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So many ways he fulfills. And then finally, he fulfills the desire of those devotees who want nothing less than the highest relationship with him. And how did he do that? He came personally as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give us Radhar Mahima Prema Rasa Sima Jagate Janatoke. Yadi Gaur na hoito tave ki hoito. If Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't have come, how would we have known the limits of spiritual ecstasy, the highest raptures of spiritual mellows? We wouldn't have known that. So he fulfills the desires of those devotees also who want nothing less than the highest. Even in the highest Gopi Bhav, he still has very fine refinements as how he wants to fulfill the desires of devotees. Let's talk about the gopis who are the highest. In Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, they are considered as the highest. Even within that highest, there are different ways devotees want to see. There is the left-wing gopis and then there is the right-wing gopis, which Keshav Prabhu was explaining so beautifully to us on the other day in our Ras Leela section of 10th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Keshav Prabhu was explaining in the class that there are left-wing gopis and right-wing gopis. Right-wing gopis are headed by Chandravali. And left-wing gopis are headed by Radharani, assisted ably by Lalita Sakhi. Okay. Now see the mood. So Keshav Prabhu was mentioning that the right-wing gopis are the easy ones to deal with for Krishna. Okay. So Krishna calls flute, they come. Krishna says sit down, they will sit down, stand up. Very submissive in nature. The left-wing gopis, they create all the problems. Fighting with Krishna all the time. Krishna says left, they will say right. Right? And this is our other end here. Right? Of course, it's not literally in that sense. Okay? There is higher reasoning for that than just what I just said, the way I said. Lalita Sakhi, always fighting with the Lord. Something the Lord wants, something else will happen. For example, Keshav Prabhu was mentioning so sweetly the other day that how Lord Krishna went and started massaging the lotus feet of Radharani dressed as one of the gopis. And Radharani was thinking, it's a very special massage this is, like that. They didn't know it, Lord Krishna. And ultimately, till the time Radharani said that this gopi has massaged so nicely. Now, go this gopi should not wear anymore this kind of a dress. Go and change her dress. And that's the time Lord Krishna fell in trouble. Whatever that was inside all came out. Right? And then obviously, there was that, there was that transcendental mood of chastisement. How can you come and do this and that? So there is a very different mood of the left-wing gopis. And then there is the right-wing gopis. So Keshav Prabhu was explaining in the class that right-wing gopis are happy with their mood, left-wing gopis are happy with their mood. So what is their mood? So he said, any devotee who develops this mood as a gopi, that Krishna is a right-wing gopi. So therefore, when I am only yours, I am not anybody else's. I am not my husband's, or I am not my parents' property or anyone. So when Krishna is playing the flute, all these gopis are rushing into the forest. In fact, Keshav Prabhu was mentioning that some of them have hardly applied some, what is that called as? Kajal. What do you call that as?
Black suit.
Whatever in the eyes they apply. Some of them have hardly groomed themselves. Some of them food is cooking halfway. Some of them are with their husband. And suddenly, some of them are full dressed, half dressed. Moment he plays flute, everyone is rushing. Left wing, right wing, everyone is rushing. But still there is a mood is different. For the right wing gopis, the mood is what? I am only yours. Okay, so they have also left their house in one sense. But then after that they follow whatever the Lord tells. Whereas the mood of the left wing gopi is, you are only mine. And therefore they can't tolerate, how dare you go to that Chandravali's camp. And he was explaining Raghunath Das Goswami's mood. Raghunath Das Goswami we all know, he used to eat and drink very less. But one day, something was given to him. It was what? Kheer or some char. Something was given to him in a pattal. And that, so he was given and he started, and suddenly he saw, before he drank, where did you get this leaf from? And then the devotee said, this is from that Chandravali's camp. He took that and he smashed that. Raghunath Das Goswami. He didn't say, oh, this is prasadam, I have to honor. This is not Vaidhi Bhakti. This is Raganuga, spontaneous mood. He smashed through it just like that. Why? How dare you go to Chandravali's camp and you get a leaf from that village? We are Radharani's camp. We are the left wing. So our Acharya is coming in that mood. Okay? And finally Keshav Prabhu concluded that which is even more ecstatic for the Lord? Right wing mood or left wing mood? Left wing mood. Because the left wing mood gives the opportunity to the Lord to become his devotee servant. And that is what is the nature of Bhagavan. In the highest level, the Lord wants to become our servant. So very beautifully, that whole point comes across in the 10th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So coming back to the neutrality or impartiality of the Lord, see the way our God is, how fine he is, how refined he is in understanding the subtle differences of desires in the hearts of so many living entities and making such an elaborate provision so that everybody is getting whatever they want as an outcome in this world. And still, he is not interfering with anyone's choice. So how can we call the Lord as partial? How can we call the Lord as unfair? So that is what Kapila Dev is explaining here in this section. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend, but he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. And then Prabhupada, as if to be extra careful about we not misunderstanding that last line, the Lord destroys those. Obviously Prabhupada is giving the last line. It says, it is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu and save themselves. Prabhupada says, he is not destroying. We have to save ourselves from destruction. Who is destroying? He has made an arrangement such that if we make certain wrong choices, we are destroying ourselves. So in that sense, he has made that arrangement for destruction. But the Lord doesn't desire anyone's destruction. It is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu and thus save themselves from the cycle of birth and death. Okay. So we'll stop here. Ask if there are any questions or comments.
Thank you very much for a very wonderful analysis. The Supreme Father, most compassionate. Could you tell us something about Pustiman? You mentioned Pustiman.
So Prabhupada comments in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam that Pushti Marg is non-different from Raganuga Bhakti. It's the same thing. Prabhupada says Raganuga or Pushti Marg, Prabhupada says. So obviously, there are two ways in which we can, Bhagavan can be approached in four ways. He can be approached out of bhaya, which is the next verse. If you see the next verse, out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows. Out of fear of Him, the sun shines. Out of fear of Him, the rain pours forth. Everything is about bhaya. So we can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead out of bhaya, out of fear. We can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead out of kartavya buddhi or duty. We can approach the Lord out of asha or desire. And finally, we can approach the God out of love or prem. So, the principle of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is to approach the Lord out of duty, desire, and so on and so forth. Oh my Lord, it is my duty to serve you. It's my duty to offer you and eat. Whereas Pushti Marg is one where there is the sense of duty is not there at all. There is only love and nothing else. And that's called as spontaneity. Spontaneity comes when you don't think and act. So when we love someone, then we don't usually think. We don't even think about how we are dealing with that person. For example, it is only our best friend with whom we can call that person with bad words and we can get away with it. Right? Or we can even tell anything we want. Because that person, we have that kind of a very thick relationship. You don't have to be formal. For example, with my best friend who brought me in Krishna consciousness, he was my best friend. So after many years, when I called him, I told him, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. And he said, what's wrong with you? He said, why don't you just call me Govind? Problem? Because he didn't want, it was like a rasabhas, for him with me. He says, you don't have to do Prabhuji with me just because you have become a devotee. Because don't forget that more important than the fact that, yes, definitely you have become a devotee, very good, and I was instrumental in that. But let's retain our natural relationships. Because we have become devotees, we don't have to introduce an artificial formality into natural relationships, right? Etiquettes are meant so that we don't disrespect devotees and displease the Lord. But where there is a natural friendship, there is really no need for etiquette over there. No need to introduce an artificial component over there. So Pushti Marg or Raganuga is the natural relationship of Krishna with the Lord. For example, in Vrindavan, there is one, when you read the journey home of His Holiness Jagannath Swami, there is this Ghanshyam Baba who is, taking a spoon and putting the spoon in his deity Gopi Janavallabha's mouth and then putting. But this is the spontaneous mood of Ghanshyam Baba, who is considering himself so low. He is considering himself as a servant of Radharani, and he is considering, another person who is hardly 18 years old as the intimate associate of Radharani. So he is saying, what is wrong if I am just serving your intimate associate of Radharani? Radharani will also love that. Krishna will also love that. So this is completely out of at least my sphere of understanding, because we are, and it's in one sense, it's better to understand this after we have gone through the process of Vaidhi Bhakti. Otherwise, we can take the Lord for granted. So Pushti Marg or Raganuga is nothing but spontaneous attachment for Lord, where rules and regulations don't come in the way of we loving Krishna, and by putting our own boundaries, we don't disallow Krishna also to reciprocate in a natural, spontaneous way with us. So that is my understanding of Pushti Marg.
So which marg are they? Out of the four sampradaya, which sampradaya?
Vallabh Sampradaya is Pushti Marg.
Which one?
Vallabh Sampradaya is Pushti Marg, but we can even call our Sampradaya as Pushti Marg, because Prabhupada says the essence of Pushti Marg is Raganuga. And Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya is ultimately about Raganuga Bhakti only. It's not about Vaidhi Bhakti. Yes, we have Vaidhi Bhakti initially Sanatana Goswami gave us, but ultimately we have to transcend that and get into spontaneous. That is our prayojana, that is our goal at the end of the day. Just one, 9 o'clock I have been asked to strictly wind up, so briefly
You mentioned that there is a transcendental knowledge and there is Vedic knowledge.
Yes.
What's the difference? Because to attain Krishna, you mentioned that we should understand transcendental.
Yeah. So the Vedas have got several sections. There is Karma Kand, there is Jnana Kand, there is Upasana Kand, and then there is the Bhakti part. Okay. Panchama Purushartha, sometimes it is called as. So the initial part of Vedic knowledge is not transcendental. It only tells you how to enjoy within this material world. The moment you talk transcendental, then we are talking about transcending the material world, which means something which is beyond the three modes of material nature. Whereas the Karma Kand talks about how to enjoy in a regulated manner within the precincts or within the jurisdiction of the three modes of material nature. So in one sense, it is not transcendental knowledge. But then by following that regulation, then it gives you a gradual upliftment from the mode of ignorance to the mode of goodness, so that then you can then come to the transcendental knowledge part. So just in itself, that section, those sections of Vedic knowledge cannot be called as transcendental. But then they are leading up to transcendence, because ultimately, Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedya vedantakrit vedavit evachaham. Ultimately, the goal of all the Vedas is to know Krishna. And when one starts understanding that, then the transcendental knowledge begins, where Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojana comes. Is that clear?
So what are
Yeah.
the transcendental scriptures?
Transcendental scriptures are those scriptures which give Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojana, which tell us who is Bhagavan, what is our relationship with him, what is the goal of life, which is beyond the material world, and which gives us the process by which to attain that. Any scripture which talks about this is transcendental literature.
You mentioned how Krishna slaps us, or there is a Krishna is a devotee for mercy, he takes away everything for us. Is there any role of karma in that? He takes away everything. Is there a role of karma?
Yes, there is role of karma. So at the time of initiation, it is usually said that, there are different commentaries on that, but there is an opportunity for us to come out of the karmic cycle by surrendering to a spiritual master. So usually, once a devotee starts practicing devotional life very seriously, then the impact of karma is generally lesser than what it otherwise would have been. That's why we call it as a token reaction Krishna gives us. Okay, but usually our problem is not sin after devotional life. Our problem is more of aparadha after devotional life. Generally, devotees sin lesser, generally, but we do offenses more. So we graduate from sinning to offensive mentality, which comes from pride, right? And offenses are personally dealt with by the Lord. Okay, offenses are personally dealt with by the Lord. Our karma, he is anyway put it on an autopilot. Durga Devi is managing that anyway. Triguna-mayi Durga, 3 modes of material nature. So he is there managing the whole karma of the whole world as a fortress. She doesn't allow. But offenses are something which Krishna personally manages. So we have to be more careful about offenses. Of course, we have to be careful about sins. But obviously, when following the 4 regulatory principles, chances are that much lesser than someone who is not following it. So it's 9 o'clock, so I'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Jai Nitāya Gaur Premanand.